Okay. Spell your name for me.
Ronald Leecarter.
It's a pleasure having you here. Um, I've heard, in fact, John Howard described you as a man of vision. And I know that you have a vision for what you would like the area around Johnson C. Smith University to be. You have a vision for it. And I would like for you to think about somebody like myself, for example, traveling through that neighborhood 20 years from now.
Mm.
And I want you to, if it is what you would like it to be in 20 years, just talk to me about what are going to be the characteristics of that neighborhood, and what's it going to look like, and what it's going to feel like. Just spell that out for me.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about my dream as well as a shared dream for the Northwest Corridor, and especially for the entrance into the Northwest Corridor along Beatties Ford Road trade. The first experience is that it is seamless with Center City. I want people to understand that Charlotte has a commitment to all of its corridors, and that commitment can be experienced in the coherence from Center City in any direction that one might travel, so that when one goes under the 77 underpass, one would experience, this is still the best of Center City. Now, beyond that, I want people to experience the rich history and legacy of the Northwest Corridor. Many, many years ago, the first president of Johnson C. Smith University, then known as the Biddle Institute, President Montoon, described it as a place where there was a high level of colored intelligence. Now, the language is archaic, but we get the point. It was a vibrant place where African Americans could engage in quality living and engage in high thoughts about where they were going with the American dream. I want that rich legacy to be vibrant and to be thriving when you enter into that experience. And then I say jokingly, I want people to experience that area as a combination of Greenwich Village and what one would experience in Georgetown. So I wanted to have that kind of feel.
Well, now, let me just talk for a moment. I remember when Interstate 77 was built, and I remember some of the reaction to the building of Interstate 77. And I remember that there was this great sense of it being a separating phenomenon. How are you going, now John Howard talked about, he said the greatest obstacle was perception.
Yes.
He said the greatest obstacle was perception. Now, what do you see as the principal obstacles to achieving what you see as this seamless connection between the Center City and the neighborhood around Johnson C. Smith, West Trade Street, Beatties Ford Road corridor? What are the principal impediments, and how are these going to be overcome?
Well, I don't see obstacles. I see opportunities. I take your point. I think the perception of why the bridge is there at all can be interpreted in many ways. As a matter of fact, when I first came to Charlotte and went under that bridge, I thought to myself, what in the world have I gotten myself into by accepting the position at Johnson C. Smith University, because I felt as if I were moving into a depressed area. And I started raising a lot of questions. Well, why is it like that? We have many underpasses in Charlotte. I think what we have to do is to dress that underpass up so that it becomes inviting And I'm delighted that through the initiatives of Malcolm Graham chairing the Beatties Ford Road Task Force, worked in cooperation with the Arts and Science Council to begin to decorate that bridge so that it's inviting, and we hope in December it will be a bridge of very beautiful colors, and when one goes under it now, one will be going through an experience and a welcoming experience into the Mosaic Village. And so I see this as an opportunity to say here is a distinguishable but not a distinct aspect of Center City, a very vibrant place, again, where you can enjoy the best of diversity and multiculturalism. Some people don't like that term, but that's what I want to see there. That it is the front door to a community that is thriving. So this bridge can be a symbol of that. It can be transformed into that.
In terms of contributing to this sense of connectivity, which you have talked about being so important, how significant do you think the prospect of having a streetcar running between Center City and the Johnson C. Smith University area, how important do you think that is, and what do you think it would do?
It is extremely important for the streetcar to run under that bridge and right up to the Rosa Parks terminal for several reasons. It will impact on economic development, and we know the facts surrounding that. But it does something else. It also forms a bond of connectivity among the institutions of higher education along that route. So now we can begin to talk about a consortium with Johnson C. Smith University, Johnson and Wells, and really right on out to Queens University, and with some other connectivities to UNC Charlotte. Now, the point I always make concerning this, any world-class city is also known for world-class education. The fact remains not one of the institutions of higher education in Charlotte can make that world-class experience, but if we come together, there will be a major impact. Now just think, if our students were able to jump on a streetcar and go to class at Johnson and Wells, or go up further and go to Queens University, or go out to UNC Charlotte, and the same for the other institutions, what happens in terms of just the intellectual richness and diversity of education in Charlotte? And all of a sudden people will see Charlotte has it right. It really has a big impact by having a consortium of higher educational institutions interacting. So this streetcar has immeasurable value for the city of Charlotte.
You talked about the fact that one of the things that you want to celebrate in the area immediately around Johnson C. Smith University is its rich heritage.
Yes.
You also said, I think, that you want this to be an area that brings people of all ethnicities, all races, all classes together in a place of harmony.
Yes.
How does the celebration of an African American heritage, which essentially that area has been, work toward inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness?
Very interesting question, and I'll respond with this. Sameness in diversity. That's what we are all struggling for, trying to understand in terms of our lived experience. And so the richness of the African American experience brings integrity, brings excitement, brings color and inverted commas to other ethnic and racial groups. And I just see the Northwest Corridor becoming a point of destination and celebration for the best of Charlotte. Now, there's something also very important about the Northwest Corridor. We just recently, the university, undertook a study entitled The Soul of the Northwest Corridor. It's a follow-up to that pioneering study funded by the Knight Foundation on the souls of cities. And we looked at the attachments in the Northwest Corridor. One of the attachments surprised everyone, and it was basically this, that the Northwest Corridor is the corridor in Charlotte that is open to diversity and inclusiveness. Now, we want to capitalize on that and make that a point of destination and experience for the city of Charlotte, because any world-class city can always point to at least one section of the city that is known for inclusiveness. And since we scored higher than any other corridor in the city of Charlotte with regard to diversity and inclusiveness, why not build on it?
Talking about this sense of heritage, I think it would be fair to say that if it were not for your initiative and if it were not for your vision, we probably would not see what is being done with the Davis House. Why is it important to restore that house, both in terms of legacy and also in terms of what that house is going to be used for the future?
Well, for me, in personal terms, I do not like destroying anything that is beautiful or has the potential to be restored to its beauty. That house is historic. It has very precious memories for Johnson C. Smith and its commitment to community and the development of schools across the country for then colored students. We should not erase that. And then it's a very fine piece of architecture that I don't think we really want to lose in this vibrant city as it continues to grow. Because again, and I keep going back to the distinguishing characteristics of a world-class city, you can have some of the best progressive architecture in the world, but you can always find the history of architecture as well. And so do we not want this in the city of Charlotte, to be able to point to its roots and its history through architecture?
I believe I'm correct that the house is going to be used as administrative offices essentially
Yes.
for an outreach program of the university to assist former foster children with their education. I believe
Yes.
that's correct. Now, how does that fit in with your vision for the neighborhood?
Well, it begins with the vision I have for the university itself, that we must be a responsible partner, hand in glove, with our corridor and the neighborhood associations that make for the corridor. In order for us to be that partner, we have to use our intellectual capital for building up communities. We look and we see that one of the challenges concerns young men and women who are aging out of foster care, I should say young teenagers who are aging out of foster care. Well, we can do something about that. We can reach out to them and to make sure that they stay within the educational pipeline so that they can graduate from high school and have the opportunity to live and learn at their growing age in a university setting. So we have that commitment. That commitment pivots toward every college in the university developing a sustainable relationship with some agency in the city of Charlotte. So the Department of Social Work in the College of Professional Studies said, we would love to develop a relationship with social services, family care, to work in the area of foster caring, really fostering students through the different phases of foster care. And this is where the idea was seeded. When I looked at the Davis House, and I kept asking, now, what would be the best use of this? And I thought about George Davis's commitment to educating young colored students all over the country. I thought, let's put the two together and let's create the Foster Network Village Center and let the Davis House be the center of administrative activity as we began to develop and expand this program. And it became a perfect match in terms of the university's commitment to its own academic goals, as well as a commitment to developing the social intellectual capital and community, and then doing something else, reaching out into the masses, and that is one of the originating purposes of Johnson C. Smith University, the Biddle Institute, Biddle University, Johnson C. Smith University, that we always reach out in order to empower. So it's a perfect match.
Well, let me explore the history of Johnson C. Smith University, and let me. You somewhat touched on this,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to talk about it. Some would say. I mean, we know that Biddle was essentially started by a group of white Presbyterian ministers who felt a need to reach out to those people who were coming out of slavery and who needed to have the skills to be able to thrive in our society.
Mm-hmm.
No question about that. Some would say that these historically African American institutions, like Johnson C. Smith or Fisk, and we could go on with others, have outlived their time. Now, African Americans can matriculate at any institution of higher education that they qualify for. I mean, they're not discriminated against because of their race as they once were. How would you respond to those who say that an institution like Johnson C. Smith has really it's anachronistic? It's outlived its purpose.
Well, I would smile, and I would think to myself how naive, but then I would engage the individual in a different discussion. I would propose that all institutions of higher education have outlived their originating purposes. There are predominantly white institutions that were created to serve only white folk. We have outlived that. The question becomes, how do we educate the 2020 college student? Now, the Chronicle survey has released its descriptors of the 2020 college student, and the majority of the students in the United States who should be eligible to go to colleges and universities in this country will be students from minority groups. And for the first time in the history of America, the white American student will be in the minority. So we may see that predominantly white institutions might have outlived their purpose. What we will have will be minority serving institutions. Now, we are experts, HBCUs are experts in educating first generation students, working with students who may have academic deficiencies, but turning that rough coal into a very beautiful piece of a diamond. So we are going to be needed even more so in helping all institutions understand how to educate the new majority of minority students.
Let me advance another proposition and to get your reaction to, and I think you touched on this before too, but let me just advance a proposition. Your job is to look after your campus. Your job is to see that you hire a faculty, that you recruit students, that you provide the services for your campus to function effectively. It's not your job to be in the development business. That's for developers to do. How would you respond to this idea that your purview really is to stay within the purpose of your campus, not to reach out and get involved in all these developmental issues? What would be your response to that?
Oh, my response to that statement is how simple-minded. First, anyone who says that to me has not read my job description. The Board of Trustees wrote 7 clear expectations for the 13th president of the Johnson C. Smith University experience. And at the top of that list was to reach out and develop sustainable relationships with community in whatever form it takes. So it is my job to do exactly what I'm doing, reaching out and developing the community around us. Now, also related to that is the understanding of what an urban university is, and Johnson C. Smith prides itself in being Charlotte's premier independent urban university. One of the defining characteristics of an urban university is that it understands its place in community. Now, let's go back into the history of Johnson C. Smith University, and you know quite a bit about the history of the university. You may recall that the first president, President Montoon, addressed the assembly to give an update on where the Biddle Institute was, and he started his comments by talking about its place in community. That has been part of our history since inception, and so it is my responsibility to continue that legacy and to think imaginatively about that legacy, so we have what we are doing in the revitalization of the Beatties Ford Road corridor.
You know, let me explore one issue with you. As you know, symbols are very important. Symbolic acts are very important. I believe I'm correct that when you came to Charlotte, you indicated that you asked yourself, what in the world have I gotten myself into, when you went under that bridge? Mm-hmm. Your residence, I believe I'm correct, mm-hmm. is on, is it Chilton Place?
Yes, in Myers Park.
And backs up to the Myers Park
Absolutely, yes.
Golf course. Did you play any part in the selection of where the president's home would be? And if so, did you think placing the president's home there would be an important symbol for Johnson C. Smith University?
Oh, indeed I did, without apology, for a couple of reasons. One, to indicate that Johnson C. Smith is hand in glove of the Charlotte experience, and that we need to erase artificial boundaries. Two, one of my responsibilities is to develop the university in terms of fundraising. And so I want to be where the wealth is, and everyone knows that that is a area for wealthy individuals. I have no problems in doing that. And then third, I always say tongue-in-cheek, since there was a covenant that black folk were not to live in Myers Park, I thought it'd be good for me to challenge the covenant.
You know, I get the definite feeling that all of what you're involved in terms of Johnson C. Smith University's involvement in the neighborhood and the connectivity of that neighborhood to the center city, you really feel like you're dealing with a bigger issue. I mean, there's a bigger issue here than Charlotte. There's a bigger issue here. I mean, am I just crazy? I mean, you see this as you're doing something here that you think is a big issue for our country.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not running for any national office. As much as I take seriously Charlotte's commitment to become a world-class city, and I have lived, all over the world, and I know what world-class cities look like, feel like, taste like, smell like, and so I'm saying, if we have this vision, then what must we do? And I'm just simply trying to make sure that we are coherent, consistent, and cogent about the vision we have for Charlotte. And I think that Johnson C. Smith University has an important role to play. So that's why I do what I do.
Well, let me explore this a little bit more. I know that you were in South Africa and that you worked with Nelson Mandela, and you observed that society at that particular moment in its time. We have things going on in our country today. Persistent high unemployment, this Occupy Wall Street movement, which has its own sort of manifestation in Charlotte. A feeling that there's a growing disparity between people of high economic means and the middle class. Is there anything that causes you great concern? Are you concerned about where we are?
Very concerned. I'm very concerned about where we are. And my concern pivots toward what I think to be our inconsistency in honoring the public trust that makes for America, as well as for the states in America, as well as for the cities in America, and specifically Charlotte. We continue to talk about public trust. It can be education and public trust. It can be social services and public trust. It can be the economy and public trust. We simply are not consistent in following through on our ideals, and as a result, we get inconsistencies that become insect worries and eventually become problems for all of us. And as an educational institution, Johnson C. Smith University has a responsibility to point out those inconsistencies when they happen, to say, folk, let's think not only critically, let's think in creative terms, and let's also think in practical terms to do the very best we can for our communities.
Well, you're just you're a man of great depth, and I cannot I cannot tell you how much I admire. As you know, the John C. Smith University in its historical, well, let me ask this one. Are you worried about gentrification? Are you worried about that you're going to be so successful that you're going to drive people out of that neighborhood? I mean, does gentrification, is that an issue that you even think is on the table?
It is on the table because we usually think in terms of false conflicts. I don't. I always look at what are the opportunities. Now, I would love to see what is called gentrification as part of the experience, because we want a diverse neighborhood. Now, why do we always think that gentrification in and of itself will drive out other folk? That's a false conflict, and it's a false concept. It's just the way we perceive and the way we choose to act. I don't buy into that. We can always have a unity of activity potential. Why don't we start from that point of view? And now, let me just press the point, and I know that my assistants in my office always get a little nervous because they think I'm too outspoken. But why did Ballantyne raise its head against public housing? Why are we concerned that neighborhoods have to be defined discreetly in terms of income levels, and then at the same time we want to talk about we the people? It doesn't make sense to me. Why not have a diversity of experiences? Why not make inclusiveness for real, so that a person who is living in a multi-million-dollar house is not afraid to sit on the front porch and face someone who may be living in a $30,000 house? Isn't that what life is all about?
Let me be real specific. You talk about celebrating heritage. Can you think of, for instance, I'm a big, we human beings, I believe, primarily get our sense of values from what we see. The eye is stronger than the ear. We invent language. God creates eyes. I'm a great believer in public art that can really sort of create a certain image. Can you think of any practical, specific ways that you would like to see heritage celebrated in the neighborhood, the area?
Well, through public art. I have some ideas of what I want to see on Smith's campus to make it a point of destination. And if plans continue, I think people are going to be very surprised, will be impressed with some of the public art that we will install on our campus under the motto of the university, "Let there be light, sit lux."
You know, one of the most dramatic things that, Mr. Myers had that land out there and gave some acreage to Biddle, is you come up on the south side of Interstate 77, coming up, going north. Biddle Hall is one of my absolute favorite buildings in Charlotte, not only because of its architecture, but also because of what it represents. Because when Stephen Mattoon, who was an incredibly decent human being, I mean, exhibited wonderful qualities. You know, that Biddle Hall sits on the highest point that you see. When you're coming up Interstate 77, my eye immediately goes to Biddle Hall because there it sits. When you stand out in front of Biddle Hall, do you get any emotion from that?
All the time, because I believe in ancestral spirits. And I can see them, I can hear them, I even talk to them late at night. So yes, I am engaged emotionally, intellectually. I have a passion for the Biddle Hall experience.
That's great. You know, there's some buildings when you stand in front with your back to them, you can feel the building.
Yes.
And when I stand in front of Biddle Hall, even right now I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, it's so incredibly powerful, and it was such an incredible statement that was made of that institution. I mean, it's just an incredible. Well, final question, and then I'll wind up, and I cannot tell you how much. You said that how's your experience in Charlotte been? How long have you been here?
I am in my 4th year in Charlotte, and I have enjoyed every day. I say to folk, I love Charlotte. I want the best for Charlotte, and I'll do everything I possibly can to help Charlotte realize its vision. And that means being honest in every aspect of my relationship with Charlotte.
Do you have anything that you would like to say that I haven't asked you? I mean, is there anything that you want to say?
I will end it with this to everyone: look well at the growing edge of the Northwest Corridor.
Anybody? Gary, you got anything you want to ask?
You know, Dr. Moore, you said something once that there were only 2 university villages in Mecklenburg County. You said Davidson College and Johnson.
That's right. That's right.
Dr. Carter, would you talk about your vision for and how you would interpret that university village?
Well, I think the University Village goes back to the statement I made earlier about a great need for a consortium among all the colleges and universities within Charlotte. We do have Davidson and we do have Smith. We will also have Queen's University. Queen's University, if I'm not, it's Queen's University at Charlotte. I think is 2 years older than Johnson C. Smith University. And with just this rich history and the common ground of the rich history rooted in the Presbyterian Church, why not develop it? Why not plant some new seeds and see what comes up?
Well, you know, one of the things that we're going to do in this video, we're going to talk about Fred Alexander. We're going to talk about Kelly Alexander. We're going to talk about Reginald Hawkins. We're going to talk about Julius Chambers. We're going to talk about Coleman Care. We're going to go into all that stuff. I mean, that will definitely be part of this. In fact, that will be sort of the first, and it's sort of, you know, when you when people think about historic areas, and you know, they think of the Mint, or they think of Davidson College, or they think of Hezekiah Alexander House. But if you measure an area on the basis of events associated with it and personalities associated with it that have had a fundamental role in transforming the nature of our community, the Batesford Road, West Trade Street area is right at the top of the list.
I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, I'll say it is number one on the list.
Well, it is extraordinarily important. And, you know, it is true still to this day that many people who grow up in Charlotte and who know Charlotte simply don't ever drive over there, Mr. President.
And you're exactly right. And you have to ask why. And we are right back where we started in our discussion: artificial boundaries.
Anybody else? Okay. You were just terrific.
Oh,
I'll
thank
tell
you.
you
You're
what,
kind.
you are just incredible. What an unbelievable